Well, we have a beautiful, beautiful day in Florida. Absolutely beautiful. Did I mention that it's beautiful out? Because it's pretty beautiful. So, the Miata, the LS Miata is very broken at the moment, and we have a lot of stuff to fix. So that's what we got to work on. Fix and upgrade. We got some cool upgrades to do, and we also need to fix broken stuff, which is also going to get upgraded as we repair it. So the diff, if you saw the drag racing video, I did a pass in Ruby and I drove this thing, and yeah, the diff broke. So basically what happened is the case just broke apart. So I guess this is really common on these. So this is the same rear cover that like an IRS Cobra has, and they sell a brace that bolts to the diff housing bolts and then bolts to here to reinforce it. But since I've got to replace the rear cover anyway, they also sell a cover that has a bunch of bracing and support built into the casting. So I just ordered that. We're gonna have to redo the mounts because it kind of ripped the subframe, cracked the subframe, sheared it, whatever you want to call it, right past the weld where I welded this on. So I want to eliminate this rubber bushing. I think this was part of the cause, because sometimes when you clutch kick hard, that you would feel like a hard driveline like bounce thing, and I think that was because this bushing is real soft and was going out. You can see that it's torn there. Axles are salvageable. I believe this one looks like it just needs a new tripod bearing. The tripod's there, just the bearing part isn't. And a boot. This one just tore the boot, so it looks like we just need a new boot for that one. So that's good. So the axles are you know, kind of like one-off for this application kind of thing. They're not off-the-shelf axles, so I was definitely hoping that those wouldn't be too destroyed. All right, I got the diff out. You can see the carnage from the rear case. I got the axle stubs out, both of them basically ripped out. The one was just being, like, the boot hadn't been completely destroyed, so it was holding it together. But we just need, like I said, new tripod bearings for the ends of the shafts and new boots, and we should be able to put the axles back together, so that's good. The axles are kind of expensive, so I didn't want to have to use my spare set. And we'll have to pull the gas tank out. When the diff broke, the drive shaft was slamming into this and grinding it down, and yeah, it's not good. It's, you know, it could be a fraction of a millimeter from worn through and then spring a leak. So while I have the subframe out, it'll be real easy to pull the tank out. Yeah, lots in store for this thing over this week. Got a couple more parts to order, but most everything should be on the way. So I'll get back to you guys when we actually have some parts to throw on this thing. All right, so we've got most of the parts in. The last bit should be showing up today. They're supposed to show up yesterday. This is kind of what everything looks like with the diff out. You can see this mount got bent. You probably can see how this one's bent. Yeah, see how that ends really far forward compared to that. So anyway, mounts are bent, subframe is cracked. So we're gonna be doing a new subframe, new mount. The new mounts will show up today. So what I'm also gonna do is redo this. So this is the stock rear rubber mount that I was using. So you can see that was splitting. So it's just too soft, you know, I mean, it was tearing apart. It's a 20-year-old mount probably. So I want to redo that instead of trying to use another stock mount. I got this, what is this one? Energy Suspensions rear wheel drive trans mount. So just a universal Energy Suspensions mount. I got to carbide burr out these holes a little bit so I can use the big bolts. They're real close to fitting, but anyway, it's the right, just barely the right spacing here. So I'm gonna use this as my mount for here. So we'll have a nice stiff poly bushing. I've got poly bushings coming for the front, and then we'll build from here to the back cover, which will be kind of like this for our other mount. So basically we'll have to build something to go from the back cover to this. But we've got this mount, poly front mounts, pretty much everything we need. We got a new back cover. So first thing I want to do is get this thing to fit, and then we'll move on to mocking up a subframe, getting the new rear cover on, all that good stuff. All right, sweet. We got that rear mount fitting, so that's good. Wanted to make sure we got that done ahead of time in case we needed to order something else or whatever to make it work, but it's gonna work. Good there. Yeah, time to start pulling the old subframe out, because we're gonna have to swap all our suspension stuff over to the new one. Alrighty, our stuff from Monster Miata came in. I hit him up and I was like, hey man, I broke like everything on my subframe. I need new mounts. I need them like as soon as you can get them out. He got them out freaking same day. And I also got a new hub because one of my studs is messed up and it's real annoying on these cars to do the hubs and studs. So I got another hub so I can build a spare hub. Got tripod bearings for the axles, got new boots for the axles, new bands for the axles, so we'll be able to rebuild our axles and throw our new mounts on the new subframe. Diff, we got everything we need, so that's exciting. So now we just gotta finish pulling this subframe out and then start building the new one. Alrighty, we got the subframe out. I mean, it went super smooth, no struggles at all. So we gotta get this thing stripped down, and I wanna start working on the new subframe. You can see where it tore all these spot welds. So on the next subframe, we'll go ahead and weld this, stitch weld it a little more than it is, because I don't think it would have ripped here so bad if it didn't split apart from the top piece, because now, you know, it loses a lot of its strength there. So anyway, start tearing into it. Sandy, you come out here when all the work's done? You don't come out while I'm busy? No? All right, we got this thing all stripped down. We've got all the stuff we're keeping off it, lower and upper arms. We've got, you know, poly bushings and stuff in these arms, so I'm just gonna reuse them. Need to get this stuff pressure washed because it is rather dirty, but that'll give us a good opportunity to clean it up. But yeah, there's nothing really else left on this thing. I mean, I could cut the mounts off and save the material for something, but probably just gonna throw it in the scrap car over there and let it find a new home as something else. Pressure wash all this, get it nice and clean, and then I've got the new subframe, so I need to cut these braces out. So these mounts are where a brace would go, but with the 488 and everything and the 3-inch exhaust, you can't fit the brace back on. So I only had them cut off on this side on my old subframe, but since I have it out, I'm just gonna cut them off both sides because there's no, I didn't ever use this side for anything. So basically I just gotta strip this down, cut it up where I need to cut it, and then we'll clean everything, and then we can start building out the new subframe. Let's get to it. All right, I got the subframe all cleaned up, got it ground down where I need to weld. I might have to grind a little more, I'm not 100% sure, but I went ahead and pressure washed it just to get all the dirt off it and then all the metal dust and stuff. It's not a huge deal because, you know, we're gonna be MIG welding this, but either way, I went ahead and marked the center on this rear mount. It's also got a center down here that I'm gonna need to double check. And then I basically measured between my two control arm pickup points, centered it there, got my marks there, so I know where to put it. So basically what we're gonna have to do is tack this on, do basically the same process for the front, get it centered, get it tacked on, and then we'll test fit the diff in here and make sure it's good before we go weld everything out. Probably just use the stock rear mount for that because, oh man, that thing is pretty bent though. It should get us in the ballpark. If, you know, this remotely lines up and the diff looks straight, we're probably good to go. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna get to welding, get this stuff tacked on. All right, got the mounts all tacked in. Really nice mount setup from Martin. I really like these mounts. They're so easy to just put on and tack and weld in. If you have any experience welding, like, this is cake. So anyway, yeah, those are in, they look nice. Let's test fit the diff, hope it works. All right, so to test fit this, we need to get our new diff cover on. So we have something to connect the mount to. So I bought this diff cover off eBay. So it's you can see that in the casting, it's braced all around here and stuff, and all around where the mount is. So definitely looks considerably stronger. Since I had to buy a new one, they sell like a brace that bolts on around here and ties back into the mount point back here, so you don't have it breaking like mine did. However, I'd have to buy a new cover and the brace, and it was the same price as just buying this cover. So I just went ahead and bought this cover. And it's got stud girdles for the diff carrier bearings. So anyway, yeah, just gotta get this on the diff. Yeah, so that's what the old diff cover looks like. You can see how beefy the 488 is. That's why when at the track, I realized I dropped the diff out of the car. I was like, man, how did I manage that? Look at how beefy that pinion gear is. Look at how beefy that ring gear is. I mean, this is a big, stout differential, and I'm running 375 horsepower through a pretty light car. I had no idea how this could have happened, but it makes sense. Diff's fine. Cover just exploded. All right, let's get this thing on the table. Differentials have got to be the freaking densest auto part known to man. They're just like so heavy for their size. So I need to replace these bolts because one of them got bent, but they should work for test fitting purposes. All right, I let that sit for about an hour to let the RTV tack up. That way it actually forms, you know, essentially a gasket. And then once it's tacked up and it's not just wet, then I torqued the cover down so that way it didn't just all squish out. So that's done, all torqued down. And yeah, now we just got to put the rear mount on and test fit it in the subframe, hope that it fits. It looks so sick too. Oh, and we'll need to set this too. Our bearing cap stud things. I guess I'll do that real quick. These only go to 7 foot-pounds. All right, it appears that it definitely fits correctly. Perfectly lined up with these holes for how bent this mount is. Got both the front bolts in. I mean, I think that's about as good as it needs to get. So I guess it's time to take it out, weld her out. I think I'm gonna do, actually, also real quick, I just thought about this. I'm gonna throw a weld on the top of each one of these little eccentric holders. So this basically keeps the alignment bolt in and allows that eccentric lobe to rotate. On my other subframe, I'll show you, we still got it over here. I've had one break off on a different subframe, and then this one, where is it? It's on that side. You can see, I mean, that was probably from when the diff fell out, but it just folded straight off the subframe there. So anyway, I'm gonna just throw a weld on the top of each of those just to make sure that none of them come undone like that. So I'm glad I thought about that now. Subframe is all welded up. Stitch welded all of the seams. Top, bottom, front, back. All of the seams are stitch welded. So it's funny too, so the welds on this, the first time I did this, I had recently learned to MIG weld. I was trying my hardest to get nice welds, and it came out worse than this, which was just me blasting through it because I've been doing it for a while now. So it's kind of funny how that works, how, you know, seat time with the welder and using it over and over again, you just progress and get way more comfortable. You could do a lot better job with a lot less effort. But yeah, kind of the same concept too with doing the stitch welding on the subframe. It's interesting. It's hard to accept sometimes, but with cars, it's a learning process. You know, like I built the first subframe and everything seemed fine. And because I didn't stitch weld that, the thing ripped apart and it ripped the metal and was a mess. You know, now I'm having to build another subframe because the weak point was this seam here and it ripping apart of the seam. So, you know, you learn every time, basically. Moral of the story, you do version 1, version 2, version 3, and you progress every time and you make changes that you learn from the previous versions and hopefully make it better each time. But anyway, yeah, so I need to paint this, but first I want to go ahead and try to knock out the rear mount for the diff because we're going to be making that new mount to this rubber mount or this poly mount. So I want to get that in there and get the diff situated in there and kind of where I want it to be and try to plan out my mount from the diff to that mount. Let's get to it. Got the diff back in the subframe, got the front bolts in. I couldn't tighten this one down all the way because it's bent, so it'll just screw up that thread, but got it in. Basically set it with the mount and then shimmed it up to hold it in place and then pulled the mount off. So now we'll get that mount on and try to figure out how we want to build from here to here. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build a box for this, basically a U-shaped deal, plate, 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 and then decide how I wanna build to here. Obviously we'll have some sort of flat plate going here to bolt to, but then I wanna be able to brace it somehow as well. I need to keep everything below or above this because this it hits the ground as is. My car squats a lot and this definitely scrapes the ground. So we definitely don't want to build anything that goes above that. And we're pretty borderline there. So anyway, yeah, we'll figure it out. What's up, Sans? You want to come weld this out or what? You didn't weld the other part. You said you were going to weld it. You know, I don't know why you're back. You didn't want to weld it. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, dude. If you want to weld it, you can weld it. All right, see you later, I guess. Let's get back to work. Let's start making stuff. So I decided to try to use this stock piece because it's already got the right spacing, it's already together, it's already got the holes, it's already rounded, it's the same thickness of all the material I have. Seems like it's going to work good. So basically we'll build a back plate for this. We'll have a top plate, which I want to bring as far up here as I can, like basically have it split and then welded there, there, and there, and on the bottom as well, and then try to figure out some sort of boxing from there, something going down here and then going up and connecting back to this. So it's all boxed in, but you know, one step at a time is how we're going to do it. So we got everything kind of in position where it needs to be. So we'll try to start building from this. Well, it's getting late and I want to get at least 2 coats on this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and paint it up real quick, let it dry overnight, and then we can finish making our rear mount. It really does look pretty cool with the stitch welds, I got to say. Anyway, let's get to painting. Well, we let this thing dry overnight and look at that freaking finish, man. If that didn't tell you, you'd think this thing was powder coated. Oh, it's pretty bad. I mean, honestly, it's not bad on the spots where it doesn't have a bunch of welding slag on it, but overall, honestly, it looks really good. I painted the last one silver because I had silver paint and it just got disgusting. Oh, I see a couple spots I missed. All right, I'm gonna hit those real quick and then we're gonna get back to work. All right, got that clamped on. Let's tack it and then start making the rest of our stuff. Well, we're gonna need this piece here regardless, so I'm gonna go ahead and just weld it because, like I said, we're gonna need it either way. Man, it looks good sitting in there with the subframe all painted. I'm really happy with the paint on the subframe. It came out super glossy. Anyway, that was the easy part, and now the hard part. I gotta whip out the old CAD over there and start trying to come up with something. Wish me luck. CAD's a little off. We got a little bit of a gap here and on the other side, so we'll tighten that up when we mark it on the actual piece of metal we're gonna try to cut, and I think that's gonna work pretty good if we can get it cut decently, because we'll go like that. We'll probably round these edges off back here, and we can weld it, and then we can figure out our other bracing, but one piece at a time. All right, let's try to cut this out of some actual metal. Let's see if it's, oh my God, look at that, dude. It's literally the perfect width. That's so funny. All right, let's cut this. Now the hard part, we gotta cut this, which we can't really do in the bandsaw. Well, we got this thing fitting nice and tight. It took a little bit of finessing with the carbide burr and stuff, but we got it on there good. So what I need to do now, I want to trim these corners off and just kind of make this shape look a little bit nicer, and then kind of start planning out my bottom supports and whatnot before I get too crazy. So let's clean this thing up, make it look a little nicer. Looks like something out of freaking Star Wars. I've been kind of mulling over my options for bracing this. I have my strength concerns, but I think what I'm gonna do is tack it on, and then I've got an idea to do a couple triangle braces here, and then a triangle brace back to here. And I mean, I think that'll be stout enough. I'm not 100% sure, but we can do everything else with it off of here. So I'm gonna get it kind of tacked on here, then we'll pull it off and start cutting the rest of our pieces and getting those fitted and welded. Alright, well, the diff is supported under its own weight. That is cool. So we can take this off now and start weld this out, probably the top part. Well, I don't know. We'll take it out and then we'll figure out what we're going to do after that. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. All right, one more brace to go right here, and then we can paint it. Let it dry, throw it on. That is done. I think with that bracing, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm not worried about it breaking as much as I was before. I think that amount of bracing will be solid. I'm gonna add a couple little welds right here on the corners. Throw some paint on it, eat lunch, and then install it. Man, my workbench is an absolute disaster. I'm one of those people, I like to have a really clean, neat work environment, but you use so many different tools of fab work, it just ends up being a mess no matter what. I guess if I had like another little table with stuff tools on, but no matter what I do, it becomes a mess. But anyway, subframe is done, man. I'm really happy with how it came out. Subframe's done, mount's done, everything looks good. I guess I should have showed you guys the mount more before I painted, but the welds came out nice, the bracing's nice, like it's pretty much exactly what I needed. I do need to get another one of these bolts, but the problem is Ace Hardware is closed today and the Lowe's won't have nice flange head grade 8 bolts like this. So I think what I'm gonna do is just run the one for now, because I do need to swap these bushings out anyway. I'm waiting on my polyurethane front bushings to come in, and I should be able to do that in the car. So I'll probably just run one for now to get this thing assembled and back in the car. I need to clean it off too. We got a bunch of dust and dirt everywhere, but man, it's crazy how much a quick mid-project cleanup keeps me in the motivation. I just hate working in a mess. So I went ahead and kind of put everything away that we were using. I'm sure we'll use some of it on the next parts of this installing whatever, but starting from scratch. So everything's cleaned up, subframe's here, ready to get assembled, final assembled. So now what we need to do is pull the gas tank out. So this one obviously got that damage from the drive shaft, so I want to replace it. It's just not worth leaving it, running it while we've got all this other stuff out, because you know, if that cracks and starts leaking, it's going to be a disaster, and it's going to be really hard to fix down the road or at the track or whatever. So anyway, I want to fix it now. I also have a nice Works brushless fuel pump I've been meaning to toss in to go in, so you know, now's a better time than any. So let's drop this thing down so we can get to the connections at the top, get those undone so that we can pull the tank out from the bottom. Whew. Would you just look at it? Oh man, fab work is my favorite thing to do when it comes to working on cars. It is by far the most satisfying. Even if it doesn't come out freaking pro level, like it's still nice to be like, I made that. I don't know, one of those things. Anyway. Oh man, that was a freaking process. So the 4 bolts that hold the top in on the front are Allen bolts, 1 on each side, stripped. So last time I went to do this, I gave up. I was like, dude, it's not worth it, because I forget what I was doing. But anyway, this time I'm like, dude, I really need to get this top off, because I gotta get back here. Not gonna be fun in the car. So anyway, that's the first time the top's come off in, I don't know, maybe a year, 6 months, long time. So anyway, now we can start taking this apart and get to our fuel stuff. Of 85. Gotta love it. All right, I think that's everything off of up here. The filler neck assembly setup out up here. I am gonna paint the trunk before I put this all back together, but I'll probably do that in the next episode. We are gonna be doing an electric steering column, so that's really exciting. We're getting rid of this electric over hydraulic pump. Doesn't seem to work for us, not in that location at least. We're gonna go into a full electric column, which should be interesting. Hopefully it works. That's a project for another day. When we do that, we'll knock out the paint in here because I don't think we'll have time. But anyway, so that's out. I think that is the last thing I need to do up here to pull the gas tank out. I don't know, we're gonna find out. So let's go down there and start trying to pull her out, see what happens. Let's drain this thing, it's heavy. So I went ahead and grabbed a fuel tank off the from the parts store, i.e. Ben's area, and I went ahead and threw that in because I need to check placement for this bulkhead connection with the new fuel pump, because it's got a few more wires than a normal pump. So anyway, I threw that back in. I think just so I make sure that I get this diff swap stuff done today, I'm gonna start assembling this subframe and get this subframe in the car. I really want to get that done today, and then worst case tomorrow, when we start on the rest of the projects we need to do on the LS Miata, we can do the fuel pump. But first, let's worry about the subframe. Let's get this wrapped up. All right, well, I've got most of the subframe assembled. I went ahead and hooked my sway bar back up. I got some new end links for it. One of them broke forever ago, I don't even know when, and I just completely disconnected it and like hung it up out of the way and drove without it. But I'm curious to drive with it again and tinker with it, take it on and off, so I figured I'd just go ahead and put it on now, drive with it, and then we'll mess with it later. Alrighty, the rear subframe is completely assembled and in the car. Is so satisfying. The rear diff cover looks sweet, having that nice poly bushing back there. It is a bummer that I'm still waiting on these poly bushings because we could be done with it, but like I said, these will be super easy to change in the car. Not a big deal at all, but happy with how this mount came out. Looks nice, seems sturdy. I really like the gloss black spray paint too. That paint takes forever to dry, but the finish is like really glossy for spray paint. Yeah, all in all, the damaged part of the Miata is back together. So like I said, a few more upgrades to do to the car. We're gonna be doing an electric column, the fuel pump, and a few other really cool things that I'm really excited about. So once it's back together and back on the road, we'll go take it for a rip, and it should be a lot better because like I said, there's a lot of play in the diff. The steering's always been a problem, etc. So I'm trying to knock out all the little stuff that I've wanted to change on this car now, get it done and over with, and then hopefully it's just solid and sorted. So I'm really excited for that, and I'm really stoked to have it back together. I'm really happy with how the rear end came out. It looks super solid, stitch welded, you know, we kind of made a bunch of improvements over the last one. So I'm excited to get everything done and go drive this thing again. But for now, that is going to be it for this video. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Goodbye.